I'd now like to welcome to the show the Director of Athletics for UConn, Warde Manuel. Ward, welcome to the show.
John, thanks for having me on. Great to be here.
I appreciate you joining me. First of all, it's been a crazy 10 months. You got hired in February. Did you expect this much in such a short period of time?
Well, no. I mean, obviously, I would say that some of the things that have come across my desk have been, surprising. But in college athletics, particularly in the last few years, I've learned that you have to adjust and deal with changes that occur.
Before we get into the football and all the conference realignment, I want to talk about the whole thing with Coach Calhoun with the basketball program. A lot of people, myself included, kind of felt the timing of his retiring was kind of late, into the season. What is your relationship with Calhoun? And was it kind of tough, the fact that he decided to resign so late and so close to the upcoming year?
Well, I think I have a good relationship with Coach, and ever since I got here, Coach and I have communicated very well. And I knew prior to him making an announcement and decision that it was something that was weighing on his mind in terms of his career and the appropriate time for him to retire. So while it came later than the decision came later than he would have liked and I would have liked, I'm not, in any way, shape, or form upset with him by the decision he made. In the timing of it, I think it was what he felt was best. And, he's done a lot of great things for UConn basketball, UConn athletics, and the university, and I'm going to support his decision.
You listen to UConn Athletic Director Warde Manuel. Now, I know you were down in New York last Tuesday, so you didn't hear Dick Vitale, who's going to be on the show next Tuesday night, railing about giving Kevin Ollie the extension.
Yes.
Just give me your thought process about, before we talk about that, because obviously you're not going to talk about that. That's between you and he and negotiating. But talk about the thought process in only giving Ollie basically a 1 year / 7-month deal. Did you think about the fact that how much it could affect recruiting? Just talk about your thought process with the hiring of Kevin.
Well, I think it's I appreciate Coach's belief. If you go back into the summer and when he decided to retire, his belief in Kevin, and I believe in Kevin, and I think he is a great person, and he is doing a great job for UConn this year. But Kevin, never having been a coach and really trying to ensure going forward in the future of UConn basketball, men's basketball, I wanted to see him perform as a head coach, and he's doing a great job. I have been in constant communication with Kevin and constantly talking to him about the things that he feels he needs. He's the head coach of this program right now. In this year, and I wanted him to make head coaching decisions so that I can see him in that role, and he's doing a great job at it.
We all know the academic thing and the fact that you're not eligible for postseason, but just talk about, does the fact that he only has a 1 year deal that has to hamstring his efforts in recruiting for next year?
Well, it does, and certainly we thought about that. I thought about that going into it, and it's not something that is easily explainable, when you talk to recruits. But it's something that I felt moving forward, just to see how he is as a head coach is not just about recruiting. Kevin was a great recruiter as an assistant coach, and he's going to be a great recruiter and do a great job if he's a head coach. So I understand the angst that people have, but wanted to see him in that role, in that leadership position with the team, see him in the leadership position on the sideline, see him make decisions, in-game decisions, and how the team adjusted, see how he's doing with the kids and the student-athletes academically. Seeing those things is important. Because I don't have anything to any way else to judge him in his role as the leader of the basketball team, with the exception of what he's doing now.
That's fair enough. You listen to UConn Athletic Director Warde Manuel. Ward, I mentioned academically ineligible this year for postseason. it's not the first time you dealt with this. I mean, I'm going to talk about your playing career at Michigan and also being the associate director, but you also went to Buffalo before you came here. I'm reading some of the numbers to people to know they're in good hands academic-wise with this gentleman here. When you inherited the program in 2005, Buffalo's men's basketball, football, baseball, and wrestling teams all fell below the standard APR of 925, which is the same thing that UConn was penalized for. You left Buffalo with all 20 of Buffalo's athletic teams in good academic standing. In fact, half the teams had an APR of 975 or higher in 2009, 2010. First off, congratulations on that turnaround. And second of all, what did turn that around, and how will you use that success and implement it on a much larger scale at UConn?
Well, John, and I appreciate your kind words about that. I mean, it's really a lot of it started to be implemented here before I came. With obviously, when you have the penalty situation, you have to make adjustments. But it really starts in getting the coaches engaged in understanding the academic profiles of recruits, and while we want to balance that with great student athletes being recruited here as we have in the past, we have to make sure that on the initial side of recruiting that we're making the right choices as it relates to the student athletes who are recruiting and signing. And then once they get here is really putting the programming around them, the academic support efforts. And then it's really getting them to hone in and do the things that they need to do in the classroom. And really I talk about, as a former student athlete, I talk a lot about competing in the classroom and using the same tools you're learning as a student athlete on the court, on the field, to move that into the classroom. So it's the determination, it's the work ethic, it's the repeating of the learning process that's important in the classroom, just like it's important on the fields of play.
The basketball facility, we heard your predecessor, Paul Prendergast, there was a $4.5 million donation from the Worth family in Woodbridge. And at that point, you guys were about halfway there in terms of getting, I believe it's $30 million to complete the basketball practice facility for both the men and the women. Where does that stand now?
Well, it's $36 million facility total, and we're at 24, and hopefully soon we'll announce a larger gift that'll move us towards that total of 36. We have enough money. The board has recently approved in November, given us the approval to start building the building. We have enough money in pledged to start financing the construction of the building. So that will start this spring with a completion date of June of 2014.
Nice. That's good news. You listen to UConn Athletic Director Warde Manuel. Before we transition to football, Carmelo Anthony, back in, I believe, 2009, donated $3 million to Syracuse, where that facility is named after him. Now, when I go up and I cover UConn basketball, I read about all the NBA players that came from UConn and went there. I'm not blaming you, but I'm just curious, do you guys reach out to the former players? Does Coach Calhoun reach out to the former players to basically kind of do the same with Carmelo did? Have you had much success doing that?
Well, we haven't had a lot of success at it yet, but the answer is yes, we are doing that. And similarly with, like we're doing with other donors, we're starting to really reach out to our former players to talk about the importance of their contribution to this facility and the need for them, where they can, to donate money back to help us solidify the construction in the building of this facility. And so Coach Calhoun, in his role now, is beginning to reach out and connect with those players to talk to them about supporting this facility and supporting other needs of the men's program. Coach Ariama is doing the same thing on the women's program with the former women's student athletes to get them to support this building. And we want our former student athletes not only to come back, but where they can to support projects and needs of our sports programs.
Ward, when you were announced as the athletic director, Susan Herbst called you the rock star. Now, I know she was serious in her praise. You get a lot of fun, a lot of knocking back and forth with the rock star quote?
Yeah, I did that day, and some people tend, if I don't accomplish the goals or do the things that people think I should do, then people use it against me as well. Yep. So I get a lot of fun on one side, and a lot of people who say, question the rock star status. But I think it was off the cuff. It was fun. I'm trying to live up to that moniker and do everything I can to have UConn achieve the excellence that it's had in the past, and that we continue that in the future.
You want to be the Rolling Stones. You don't want to be Debbie Gibson. So just keep that in mind.
I don't want to be a one-hit wonder. No.
Exactly. You listen to UConn Athletic Director Warde Manuel. I want to read a quote that Calhoun had when you were hired as well. If you're good enough and tough enough to be recruited by Bo Schembechler, you're probably some kind of guy that understands college athletics, not only from a philosophical standpoint, but from an athletic standpoint. What did it mean to you? And we also know that you had a 290-pound father, ex-U.S. Army sergeant growing up with. What did it mean, your parents, your upbringing there, and also being recruited by Bo Schembechler and being part of Michigan? How does that, what did that mean in your formulation later on in life?
Well, it taught me how to really work towards excellence. I think what my father and Bo Schembechler taught me is that there's no substitute for hard work. There's no substitute for dedication and focus and doing things the right way, and really making the effort. And if you can do that, if you as a part of a team, if everybody can pull in that direction, you're going to win. You're going to win more than you lose. You're going to win championships. You're going to get closer to excellence and closer to greatness through hard work and dedication. And those are the things that I bring and try to bring every day with me here, and try to ensure that our staff and our coaches and our student athletes understand there's no shortcut to doing things in maintaining excellence and achieving excellence, and we have to do that every day.
Ward, when you look at all the realignment that's going on now, are you worried about the future of college athletics? And let me just clarify what I'm talking about. You've basically, especially in basketball, you've lost a four-year athlete. The conferences are shifting. Coaches are basically, I don't even want to get into Bobby Petrino, but basically coaches are coming and going at the whim. The rivalries are going to kind of get lost in the shuffle. And, we always talk about the athletes in college. They play for the love of the game, but a lot of it is they play for the name on the back of the uniform. And if we lose the name on the front of the uniform, if we lose those rivalries, are you worried about the future of college athletics?
Well, I worry that, what's going to, the great feeling that people have about college athletics is really built into a lot of the rivalries and the passion that you have over the years from the rivalries that exist. And the concern I have is with the changes more than anything else that we may see a lull in that passion, because you're going to have less of those rivalries for a while, and they need to be rebuilt. Rivalries just don't happen because you say they're a rivalry. Those things happen over time. And I think from my days playing, when you're playing for the Little Brown Jug and all the different things that happen, there's stories behind those sort of trophy games, if you will, that just can't be fabricated. People see through them and they don't have the meaning, but over time it does. So it doesn't concern me necessarily overall that there's shifts. There have been shifts in conference realignment if you go back in the history of NCAA athletics, there's been constant shift over the years of conferences from decade to decade. You can see it. Now we're in a mode where many shifts are occurring, and so it's starting to, I think, in many of our fans' minds and many of the fans across the country of college athletics, is starting to say, what is that going to do to the rivalries? But those will be rebuilt. Things will happen over time, but I'm worried about the lull of the passion behind those rivalries.
UConn Athletic Director Warde Manuel talking sports with the Bird. This week, Sports Illustrated, a nice feature on Jim Calhoun by a UConn alumni, Seth Davis. I want to read a quote because this is what really got people going crazy and which really had to scale up Mike Enright and getting you on the show, because when we lost out to Louisville, there was a lot of upset people here. Calhoun's quote, "I'm not angry at the ACC. Everybody makes a judgment. Everything seems to be driven by football. But they do have a better stadium, and to some degree, they're more of a football crowd than we are. It's difficult territory because I think we put $208 million into football. I just think we have to keep our options open, but then stabilize where we are, because I don't believe this is all over. I think you're going to have 4 to 5 mega conferences, and they're going to feed off each other." When I read that quote, and then I read today that the Big East, the league is not very happy the way Cincinnati and UConn reacted to the news that they were not selected by the ACC. Have you been in touch with Mike Oresco at the Big East? I mean, what is your relationship now? They can't be crazy enough to think, or maybe they are, that you guys are going to hang there. I'm just curious, do you talk to Mike Oresco and Big East officials?
I do, and I think Mike and I have a good relationship, and we've talked on many occasions throughout the past few weeks, and we have a solid relationship from my perspective. And I've continued to say that the Big East has been a great home for us, and we're going to continue to support the Big East and continue to work to win championships. It's a great conference. It has been since its inception, and we're a proud founding member of it, and we're going to keep working at it.
I know you're strictly talking about academics, and the article that Chris Ellsbury, who was on with me last week and we discussed this, did a nice feature in the Connecticut Post about football. And your quote in his article about the stadium, and this is the question I've been wanting to ask: the more games we win, the more tickets we can sell, the quicker I'll expand the stadium. When we're at the point where we're having consistent sellouts in the next couple of years, then it'll increase the talk of expanding because of demand. I'm not looking to wait 10 years before we do it. It's all about we have to improve the team. We want to find ways to encourage people to come out and watch us play. We know we have to do better on the field. We want people from Bridgeport, people in New Haven, Stanford, to buy season tickets, come to support the team, see us play great competition. If we can expand the number of fans and the demand to see us play, we'll look to expand the stadium because it makes economic sense. Two-part question. What really has to come first here? You guys made, before your time, way back when, to build a stadium to 40,000. Set everybody straight. What is it expandable to? And what really comes first? I mean, do you have to make that move? Because obviously the ACC came in, and we all have proximity to the metropolitan area, but the ACC decided Syracuse was their better fit, and the other guys decided, Louisville, Rutgers. They all went, and we lost out because it's perceived we don't do well enough in football. But what has to come first? You have to see results on the field, or are you going to take the impetus to basically expand the stadium and see what happens?
Well, I think on the Syracuse piece, if I may just jump to your comment, the Syracuse decision, Pittsburgh decision, I think had different factors than the decision now. The stadium is expandable currently. There's footings that allow us to put an additional 10,000 seats on the opposite the press box. So there are footings there that would allow us to do that. There's obviously other work that would need to be done, but they designed the stadium so that it would be easily expandable to 50,000 seats on that by adding 10,000 to that side. There are other options that could be considered, particularly on either side of the end zone, by enclosing it further on the open end by the scoreboard. There's probably more work that we can do. But the stadium currently as it seats would be expanded to 50. Look, I'm a realist about our fans and what we've been doing, particularly the last 2 years, having 2 5 and 7 years. We are going through some growing pains in the last couple of years with the coaches transition. That happens, and my expectation of the team is that we're going to improve in that we are going to ensure that we have a consistency of non-conference and conference opponents in here. Build a tradition, continue to build a stronger tradition of success on the field of play. I think we have to get better. There's no doubt about that. I'm not going to, fool our fans. What I'm saying is, we need the consistency of the support, and it plays into the game. It plays into performance on the field. Home field advantage is what I'm referring to, is an important component. And Robert Griffin III said several years ago, this was one of the loudest stadiums he's ever been in.
Yep.
And that's something that our fans have to understand, that they're an important part. We have to do, our team, our coaches have to do their parts on the field. There's no doubt about that. But we're making that effort. We're putting in the work to do that. We're making the adjustments and going to make the adjustments that we need to make to be successful, because we want to be successful in the sport of football. We want to win Big East championships. We want to win and get back to a BCS bowl or to a bigger bowl. We want our fans to come out and support us at that bowl game and do the things on a consistent basis to ensure that our fans will have a great experience prior to the game, tailgating, in-game experience, and watching great football and watching us have great success.
You listen to UConn Athletic Director Warde Manuel. Ward, a couple more for you. I mentioned that part about you want people from Bridgeport and Stanford to come out. I'm originally from Fairfield. I went to UConn. When I was growing up, UConn could have been on Pluto. I mean, we were not aware of it. I'm serious. I mean, when I went up there, I thought it was New Haven, Hartford, Boston. I didn't even know that part of the state existed.
Right.
Have you guys done enough in Fairfield County? The reason I ask,
no.
All the big buildings, Burton family's behind it, Greenwich guy. Schenkman, Greenwich guy. Mark Freitas, a friend of mine who I went to UConn with, we graduated in 81, Greenwich. One of his houses in Greenwich. We don't get into that.
Yeah.
The money is all down here. I don't have any of it, but the money is down here. It just seems like I've read things, and Chris and I have talked about, why don't you guys play a basketball game at the arena? I understand capacity-wise, but again, thinking long-term, there is a lot of alumni down in this area. I just don't think you guys have done enough in this neck of the woods.
Well, I would agree, and that's something, shortly after I got here, and I've been down to Fairfield County a few times since my arrival, and I look to get down there even more. We haven't done enough to really get to the fans in Fairfield County. We're going to do more. We want. We're Connecticut. We're not Hartford. We're not Stores. We're not the east side of the state versus the southern or the western side or the northern side of the state. We are Connecticut. We want to reach our fans where they are. We also want them to come to where we are and where we're playing games, and we realize that it's got to be a reciprocal relationship. I've talked to Bob Burton. I've talked to Mark Freitas. I've talked to Mark Schenkman and those guys who are down in that area. We're going to be down there more. We're going to be more visible. We're going to bring ourselves in different ways to Fairfield County, and we want to draw because of our success and because of what we offer in terms of our teams. We want to draw more people to our venues here as well.
The Michigan game next year, I know there's been a lot of back and forth where they didn't want to come. You have ties there playing with Bo Schembechler. Just wondering where that stands now. The game is going to be here, but there's talk of going to MetLife or going up to Gillette. Where does it stand now with the Michigan game next year?
The Michigan game is going to be played in Rensselaer Field.
Okay. Now, that being said, my last question, I'll get you out of here. That place, you will not get a ticket for that Michigan game. I understand the tailgating. I've been up there on both ends, covering it as a member of the press and also having fun tailgating. But when I look at the recruiting classes, 53rd in 2007. Since then, the recruiting classes have been 70th, 76th, 69th, and lastly 66th. How tough a job is it now for Paul Pasqualoni? I know the article, and I know Susan Herbst has said academics matter, and I understand they do. But how tough is it now when Rutgers and Syracuse and all these others can basically come to the same place and offer the Big Ten and offer the ACC? It's got to be a tough job for Pasqualoni to recruit. And again, I know academics matters, but I look at it, again, what comes first? My opinion, all those buildings were built at UConn since I graduated in 81 due to the success of the athletic program. So we know it's key. What does Pasqualoni sell to a football recruit?
Well, he's got to sell the combination of academics and athletics, and great at both. And he's got to be able to attract the recruits that are able to come here and help us win. And I think the sell is that, we are going to provide you with an opportunity to play right away. If you're good enough, you're going to play great high-level football. You're going to play against great competition in the non-conference and the conference. In that we have to get the best student athletes that we can attract to win championships. And I'm not so tied to recruiting classes in the ranking of recruiting classes as I am to providing and making sure that the student athletes that are here can help us win on the field and are going to be great student athletes. And I think about what Turner Gill did, and it's at the MAC conference, is not here, but we were ranked last almost every year and ended up winning the championship in that particular league. That is coaching. That is getting the student athletes, putting them in the right place. That is student athletes excelling on the field. I look at, what's disappointing for me about the season is we can go to a Louisville who's probably had better recruiting classes, ranked higher than us, go into their stadium on senior night and beat them there.
Yep.
With our talent that we have that you laid out in terms of the ranking, and then we not win some games that we certainly should have on paper. Those are the things that are disappointing to me, that are disappointing to our coaches and our student athletes, and that we have to get better and play more consistently. We have the talent, we have the facilities, and we have a great university to attract great student athletes. We will continue to sell at. We will continue to strive to be the best that we can. We will continue to strive to win and win championships to attract our fans and be the pride of this state. And we're not going to stop driving that message and striving for excellence.
Well, Ward, when I read what you did in Buffalo, I think all the UConn alumni, I'm pretty positive we're in good hands. I'm going to give you, as a rock star, you're not Debbie Gibson. I'm going to give you like Maroon 5, but I want you to be elevated up to the Jay-Z Rolling Stones area in another year or so when we see more of you guys down here in the Fairfield County area. Ward, I really want to thank you for all the time. Again, thank you to Mike Enright for putting up with all my emails. Really appreciate you spending time. And I think we're in good hands, and I definitely hope it works as a UConn alumni.
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate John being on the show, and anytime I can come back, I'd love to do it.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Take care.
Go ahead.